Hello, hello. It's been a while since I've done anything on this channel. I kind of just abandoned it. I don't know. I had one really bad setup for a stream like a year ago. Has it been a year, 2 years? I don't really remember. And then I just kind of left this to die. I haven't uploaded anything since, streamed anything since. But I came across a little inspiration, so I thought, maybe I'll take this opportunity, make a little YouTube video about it, right? So on the old Twitter, there was this tweet going around recently, anime Twitter specifically. You've seen the title, you've seen the thumbnail, you know what this is about. Uh, by this person named Sebastian Portals, at Sebastian Portals, right? The best manga panel ever. And it's this panel of Goku. He's looking down, very conflicted, very angry. Well, not very angry. That's the whole point, isn't it? It's a very complicated panel full of complicated emotions, right? There's anger, there's this disappointment, there's this just inner conflict, and I found it really interesting. And a lot of people on Twitter were also. It was making the rounds, right? This is a what do we got? We got 21,000 likes and just a whole bunch of quotes, and like everyone praising Dragon Ball, praising Akira Toriyama, the mangaka. And I thought, this is interesting enough for me to do something with it, right? And I want to do a little art study on it, right? And I'm probably showing you the panel right now in the video, right? So, how do I want to start? I guess I'll give a little context to it, right? So, I should say I'm not the biggest Dragon Ball guy, right? I've never watched the anime, I've never read the manga. But basic premise is Goku Frieza are fighting on a planet. Frieza is basically dead. Goku spares him because he's, nice like that, right? That's his whole deal. Frieza, in turn, decides to backstab him and send an energy beam after him as he's flying away, right? So, in turn, Goku has to obviously defend himself and proceeds to obliterate Frieza, right? And this panel is what happens right after, because you can see kind of in his face, he didn't want to do this. So here's the panel. I mean, you can just appreciate Toriyama's whole style, right? It's just, he doesn't usually, I don't know, again, I read the manga, but from what I've seen, he doesn't usually draw like this much, all these little battle damage lines, all this blood. This is a very deliberate panel, right? We have to realize that all this detail is not the norm, right? It will be a pain in the ass to draw this much anyway, but you get what I'm saying. So the interesting things that I noticed, first of all, were the eyebrows, right? We got these furrowed eyebrows. He's clearly angry. And I saw some other people. This is kind of like a collective information, right? I read other people's opinions on Twitter and whatnot. So we can see this this left eyebrow, right? Or I guess it would be his right, but we're just going to call it left because that's how we're looking at the drawing. Very furrowed, right? We can see like very sharp angle here. And then we can see his right eyebrow. It's still furrowed, but it's a little softer, right? It's a little more mellow. I saw someone else on Twitter, they took this image, they just made a basic outline of all the facial features, nose and stuff. And then they cut out this eye on one, and then they cut out this eye on the other and left the other one, obviously there. And then you could see, you read the emotion differently when you only got the one eye. So it's very interesting, this concept of basically just splitting the face in two up here and then having these two different emotions on both eyes kind of combining into one, right? Now, I found this very interesting because the whole concept of having like two completely different things, right? They're not that different, right? If you had like one eye crying and then one eye was like smiling with joy, you'd think it was Two-Face, right? This you can't go too extreme. So there's also this subtlety you need to have when you're doing it, which is you're gonna realize that the more I talk about this, the more it just speaks to Toriyama's skill in just writing and illustrating manga. It's just really good. What else do we have? The tear. I guess I'll go with that next. We're going top down. You can see he has this just I don't know, blood scratches, kind of both at the same time, right? And it's running down his eye, and it's very tear shaped, right? Now, I had this lovely little discussion on Twitter with these two other gentlemen who were pointing stuff out about this and if it was an intentional thing or not, and I must assume it was, right? Someone of the caliber of Toriyama would not just unintentionally do a tear like this, but there was a second example, which is when Vegeta sacrifices himself, his final atonement, I think it's called. And it's a very similar panel to this in style and just in thematic importance, right? completely different emotions, kind of like accepting his fate, a little sadness, but also a bit of pride on Vegeta, of course. And has the same deal. I'll pop it up on the video. You can see these tears of blood, but, clearly meant to illustrate tears. And I think that's quite brilliant because, you see, if you try to illustrate, like, liquids normally, right? Like these little sweat droplets here. Water's see-through. If you wanted to make water that visible, you would have to go in, like, really close and, like, do a really, super detailed thing. And I think this is about as detailed as it gets for Dragon Ball, at least in the early days. I mean, I'm sure there's more detailed examples, but, for facial expressions, I think this is basically the peak. Not just Dragon Ball, but generally, but, So the choice to make it blood, first of all, it just draws more attention to it, right? There's this concept I got introduced to a few weeks ago of just, when you have just like a blank canvas, so it's a different thing. You just have this blank canvas, right? There's nothing here, and you make a dot. Suddenly, your attention is drawn to this because of the contrast, right? There's nothing else. There's only this, so your eyes are immediately drawn to it. So your eyes are inherently drawn to this dark spot on his face, this tear. And it's clearly also very tear-shaped, right? And it's just interesting. It's an interesting way to do it, I found. Now, what else could I point out? There's the poutiness. Obviously, you can see it's such a delicate balance, isn't it? Just obviously, there's anger. There's clearly anger in this face. You can see, how his forehead is scrunched up, how his nose is kind of scrunched up here, how his chin is scrunched up. But it's also like a little pouty. Not quite like he's holding back, a bunch of tears or anything, but it's like this clear upsetness, right? Like he's not pissed at Frieza. There's a little thing in the anime that I'm going to point out in a second after this, but he's not necessarily just like, oh, you fucking asshole, how could you do this? It's more like a, why? Why would you be so foolish? Why would you make me do this, right? Because Goku clearly did not want to kill him. He wanted to spare him. He just wanted to leave him on the planet, be like, done with it. Like, fine, I gave you my energy. You can live. Now fuck off. No. Frieza forced Goku to kill him. And that's obviously going to be upsetting for the man. I mean, a big thing in Dragon Ball is also just sparing your enemies, or Goku spares his enemies, and then they become allies later on. Like, Vegeta being the most obvious and biggest example, but also like Boo and stuff like that, right? Piccolo. Like half the cast is just bad guys that he's redeemed, right? So this is just a big change. It's obviously going to upset him. It's going to anger him. It's going to be like, man, God, this sucks. Right? I don't know. It's just, you just look at it, right? Just look. This isn't the highest quality. You saw, there's a high quality scan on this. I popped it up earlier, right? This is just what I had in here so I could draw with it. So I want to do a study on this because, again, I noticed all these things. I saw it was interesting. I saw so much discussion around it. So many other talented artists and longtime Dragon Ball fans just pointing it out. Just everyone glazing Toriyama, right? It was awesome. So what I did, as you can see, I have a bunch of things here. Little spoilers for later. Ooh. So what I did first is I traced it. Here's the trace version, as you can see. So I'm going to lock this panel again because I didn't want to necessarily draw on that, but it had a, if you go on a locked panel here, it has like this X and it's just ugly. So here's my trace version, right? So why did I do this? Well, I just wanted to see how it was done. I think it's generally a pretty accepted thing among artists that, tracing a great artist's art is a great way to kind of get the vibe of how they do their style, right? So first thing that I noticed, this is very clearly hand-drawn. This is, when did Dragon Ball Z come out in the manga? Like, it must be like mid-80s, maybe even early 80s, late 80s, I don't know, sometime in the 80s, right? This is all like very clearly hand-drawn, and I could notice that especially when I was doing the ear and the eyebrow, I think it was. I don't know. I did this like 2 days ago, right? This took me a while. I'll get into that later too, but yeah, I could just notice just from the way it was drawn, it was like these like quick strokes, right? If you're good enough at art, you can do these things kind of quickly. I'm not. I must preface it. I'm not good at art at all, right? I suck ass. So things, even just tracing, just took me a while, right? But I could just tell from like the scraggliness and this how the pen angled at certain points. I was just like, like, and obviously there's some carefulness, right? One example that I liked a lot was the hair because there's a lot of like continuous lines. So you can notice a little shakiness. Again, this is kind of blurry because it's compressed on my fucking art software, but you can still see it, right? You can still see his shakiness and where some lines even connect, where he like goes like this, and then he goes like this, and you can see, yeah, here was the example I saw the best, right? You can see this like where it like goes like this, and then he continues like this, right? And again, it's not like you would be able to correct this back then, because it's pen on paper, right? If you make a little mistake like that, I mean, you can hardly call it a mistake. It's just part of the style at that point, but you can't really do anything about it. I can. I have the power of art software. I did leave this in because I thought it was a neat detail. That's why I pointed it out so much. But yeah, I did well, I will get to that later. What else? What else did I notice that was interesting? You can see that my lining for these like battle marks, bruises, scrapes, whatever the hell, whatever you want to call it, they're kind of rough. They don't look that great. We'll get to that later again because I have another thing to bring up. But yeah, I found it very interesting. The line thickness as well. You can tell that it's very deliberate. Certain parts are like thinner, and then it goes like thicker here, and then it's just very clearly someone that knows what they're doing. Once you really, take the magnifying glass to it and just look at it real closely, you can just tell, like, oh man, this guy, he knows his shit, right? So what I did after this trace, this took me like an hour, by the way. I did this. I had the blue one now, actually. I kind of did like a little just study of how the face was proportioned. I found this a little, well, not just a little, I found this pretty helpful. Just how the eyes were angled, because it's clear that it's like, when you like touch your face right now, right? Just touch your face for me. You can feel that your eyes are kind of in these like bowls, right? Like above the bridge of your nose to like your brow. There's like these two little inset parts, and the whole thing is kind of inset where your eyes are, right? So it's interesting to see how the eyes were actually angled along that whole inset bit. I've tried to emulate this in art in the past, but I've never been very good at it. I'm not very good at drawing faces. I'm not very good at drawing in general, but faces and hands and feet, all of them I suck at, right? Yeah, so you can see I made a little note. I drew a little guy. Look at him. Yeah, inset, right? So then I also just drew the head shape. I'm not sure if this is accurate. It seems kind of like flat, but this is just kind of to see, right? I just thought it was interesting. And this is also to help me in this next bit, which is a drawing I did without tracing, right? So I basically just drew this on my own. I had this as like a little cheat sheet next to me. You'll see that in the time lapse I made. I made a time lapse, by the way, very fancy. I'll play that now. I'll play it sped up because it's like 3 minutes long. I don't think anyone wants to wait through that, but we'll do that. And I'll see you afterwards for a little discussion. All right. If we are here, then you have probably seen the entire time lapse. I have taken the liberty of. Why the hell is there a line here? What layer is that on? I don't remember putting that there. Anyway, yeah, I've taken the liberty of moving this over. So let's discuss what I did. If you watch the time lapse, you probably notice just a few of my personal habits. I guess this will just be a discussion of how I go about things and how it's wrong, right? You don't want to be doing art like me. I think you can especially notice it on the ear if you were paying attention, and like a lot of like especially this whole like area, right? Let me actually here. I'll make another layer, and then I can. I don't know. I'll just use like this. I don't want to be too aggressive over it. There we go. Yeah, the ear was a big thing. And yeah, especially this part, I struggle a lot with this. You could see actually, when you saw the scribbling here, that was me going through my brushes and seeing if I could find a different one that would help me do the job better. So a big thing, right? I mentioned that this was kind of rough, like the scraping and stuff. That was a big thing I noticed, right? I thought, I just did this like not even like an hour ago, right? I thought this would just be like an easy end thing, right? So I did like the basic. Here we go. I did all this yesterday, and then I came back into the shading and everything and the blood and whatnot today, right? Because I thought it would just be, I'll just be done with this in like 20 minutes, and then I can record this video, and then it'll all be chill. Incorrect. So one big thing I noticed, right, is the amount of line control that Toriyama has or the pen control, I mean. You can just see how, like, tightly packed these are. And he was drawing on, like, a probably much smaller canvas. Okay, maybe not, because I am currently drawing on, like, a tiny-ass drawing tablet. I do like it. It is definitely, it's a me issue, right? It's not the fucking tablet, it's a me issue. But you can just see how, like, tightly packed all these lines are. And it's done so much. I mean, just for the shading, for, like, this, and all these scrapes and whatnot, and the blood, right? And then what I find fascinating, it's a little hard to see. I wish I had a higher res version, but I'm not gonna mess with it now. Is how these scrapes, like, they meld into the blood, right? So you have these scrapes here, and then they just start getting thicker and thicker and thicker until it like flows out into the the thick black just smudge that is the blood. So it like looks just better. Like here especially, it's a little more easy to see. You can just see this like swoop, 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 and then it's like a thicker swoop, and then it's like a real thick swoop. And I think part of this is due to the tool that he was using, right? That probably made it a bit easier. So the way old school mangaka did it, who like still drew on paper one, is they have these like fountain pens basically, but they're a little more flexible. I think, I don't know. I've never held one myself, but the advantage is that you can draw these like really thin, light lines. Like especially here, you can just tell how he was like just so light that he was just skipping across the page, which you can't really do on a drawing tablet that well. But then it's also like you have these thick lines and these thick infilled areas because you can just press down and like it'll release more ink, right? Like especially here. I don't know what this is meant to be. It's like kind of messy. I'm assuming it was just like an ink blotch or something, right? But that was one advantage of using those things. Now, from what I've heard, they're very fucking difficult to use. I don't know, maybe at one point in the future I'll get myself one and test it out. For line art, physical line art anyway, I just have like I think it's a Mitsubishi pen? I think it was Mitsubishi. It's a very good pen. I quite like it. It's like a liquid ink pen. It's not like a ballpoint, right? Anyway, I found that very difficult. Second of all, I didn't make the lines thick enough. You can see here. Remember how I was talking about like when you make like a circle on an empty page, it like draws all these things into it. So I've done the opposite of that. I've drawn it way too lightly. Like you can see here, it's fine, and then here you can like barely see it. It's also too small. I have a very big issue of just seeing the objective whole in my art, right? So whenever I draw, I draw like this, right? This is literally how I did this. I went like in here, and then I was like, right? And then I'd zoom out, and it's like, like look how light that is in comparison to these two. Like that's also pretty light, but it's bigger, first of all. You can just tell. Actually, maybe I'll, hold on. Right. I haven't actually done this yet. Let's take this and put it underneath. Let me, you have to press shift if you want to adjust things in Krita like this. Otherwise it'll deform massively and it looks ugly. You know, it's not perfect, but whatever, right? Actually, I think we'll put them side by side because otherwise you can't see anything that I did right. So yeah, this is way more helpful. All right, look at this. Right, you can just see how, like from afar, you can see this. Right, you can hardly see it. It's like a whisper. Now I know this is white in the background. Ugh, am I really about to fucking mess with the background for this? Yes, I am. All right, hold on. Let's give myself a fair shot. You know. I'll just use this brush. Okay, I have my backgrounds gray because it just helps make eyes feel more comfortable. But yeah, even then, that also maybe made it worse because the white just kind of blinds you. Let me relook that. All right. So yeah, you can just see the issue, right? It's just so light, you can hardly see it, and then all the blood is just it's properly dark. I think that's fine, just from value wise. But then it's too dark in comparison to everything else, so you have these weird islands. I'm willing to almost call them, of just blotches of things. And yeah, you can see this was a really big example. So you can see how big this is. This gash covers like half of Goku's cheek here. I was so zoomed in here that I just like that's the one thing you can't see in the time lapse or in the you can't see that in time lapse just because it's built in the software. Actually, it's really cool. You can see it down here, but it basically just captures the whole thing, so you can't see when I'm zooming in or stuff, right? So I'm not recording the full thing while I'm drawing it because it takes me hours to draw, right? This took me a combined 2 days. Not because I was sitting at it all day. I was probably sitting at this for a combined 3 hours, which is still a lot. I have huge motivation issues when it comes to drawing. I find it so hard just to get to a drawing and actually do it. It can take me months. Especially if I'm doing it on paper, it takes me so fucking long. It just takes me forever. I have so much motivation issues when it comes to drawing. It's awful. I would like to draw more, but it's just difficult for me. Now, what else can I mention? I made his face a bit more pouty. That's cute. Anything? Yeah, just you can also just see the way I did it, and I don't think this is necessarily all me being just that awful. I think it's also just part of Toriyama being that good. You can just look at how close together these are, but they're still distinct, right? They're not like melded together. You can like see like that's so difficult to do, especially on like pen and paper when you're working with like a fountain pen. Like you can see these little splotches here. I don't even know if those were intentional or not. They might have been, but they could have also just been like a little bit of overlap. You know? And the face and everything is fine. This is just like the shoulder, right? He's looking over his shoulder here. So it's just like, man. And you know, I'm not gonna die. I'm not very good at drawing, right? Part of my idea for this was actually that I was gonna maybe do it on my own, right? Like I wasn't gonna have this as reference, as you can see in the video. I always had this around and I moved it around sometimes, especially for like these parts because I just could not get them on my own, right? So I thought about just drawing it kind of like in my own quote unquote style. I don't really have one, but you know, just kind of doing it on my own. And I didn't. First of all, because it would have looked really bad. I would have felt so fucking embarrassed putting that up here. I know I shouldn't be, but you know how it is. And second, I would have never gotten finished with it. I genuinely flat out, I just never would have finished it. Right? I would have spent weeks on it at minimum. And I know that sounds completely fucking ridiculous. And you can't convey it in the time lapse because the time lapse, it doesn't record objective time. It records after each stroke, right? That's the neat thing about this built-in software as well. So you can't see how long that took me. Like, whenever I draw, I'll like draw something and then I'll like stare out into space for 5 minutes. It's horrible. It's so annoying. Anyway, What else? You can see some liberties I took. I just extended Goku's hair here. I don't know. It's nothing crazy. If I had to draw the full head of hair, I would have made it look so awful, but I think it looks fine, just like a little bit extended here. And the ear, I was pretty happy with the ear. It's a little more angular than he did it, honestly. Which is kind of funny, because Toriyama's style, and yeah, that's another thing I want to mention. It's so angular, right? You can just see how it's like sharp, kind of. They're not like right angles, right? But it's still kind of sharp. Like the ears sharp, the eyes are incredibly sharp, the eyebrows are sharp, the nose is sharp, the hair is infamously sharp, right? So I don't know. That was just a point I wanted to point out. And compared to like other artists, like I thought about Araki. Yeah, that was the mangaka for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. His style is much softer. Especially the eyes. Like that's a huge difference. Like I saw someone post some panels from Stone Ocean, like the manga, right? And I just immediately, and I had this on my mind, right? I was thinking about this video for like a few days now. I just had this on my mind. I was like, wow, you can just see how, like, especially in the eyes and the face, the features are a lot more softer. Now, okay, thinking back to old JoJo's, that was also a lot more angular, big muscular men, fist of the North Star style, But I don't know. I feel like Toriyama's style is just unique in its own kind of way. I don't know how to describe it compared to other ones. Maybe I just have to make more of these videos. I don't know. No one's going to watch this anyway, but, was there anything else I wanted to mention? I mentioned the line thickness. Oh, yeah, the ear. There was another thing about that. So you probably noticed how I resized that at some point in the middle of the time lapse. Again, I was victim of me drawing up close like this, and, and then zooming out and realizing, oh, it's, like, way too small. Like, it was, like, this big. So then I just took it and stretched it a little bit outwards. I think I did it. And then I just resized it because I specifically noticed it when I went to draw the jaw. It was just like way too high up. Like I had it over here, and I was like, that's not right. I'm gonna change this. Yeah, I don't know. I can't say I like it. It's not great, right? The face is also a bit more pudgy. This is another issue with my just penmanship, I guess. It's just like when I draw a line, it tends to have this inherent kind of curve to it. I struggle with just straight up straight lines. And some people, they may be watching this and be saying, "Oh, it's probably easier on like a standard drawing tablet, the big ones that are basically just big ass touch screens, right?" I don't really like those because I don't like my hand getting in the way. I've never really used one. I've like messed around on friends' iPads and whatnot, but I don't know. I just feel like my hand gets in the way. I like my little drawing pad thing. It's like a Huon thing I bought like 5 years ago. It's been so long. It's like the size of a book, right? It's like the size of a little book. The drawing surface is even smaller, but what I like about it is that it doesn't get in my way. So I can just draw without my hand being in the way, and I can see everything. It's very nice. And then, I can also do this. It's also way cheaper. This was like $40, and like the cheapest tablet screen thing is probably like in the hundreds. So yeah, did I learn anything from this? I learned a bit from this, the straight up trace. I thought the way he did line art, where it was just like these obvious, just like scratches almost in the paper, I thought that was very interesting. That's definitely something I want to kind of try and experiment and incorporate into my own things, especially the physical drawings. Another thing, I've known about this for a while, but just like the zooming in, focusing on one detail, and then zooming out, and then it looks way too small or like misaligned. I think the nose is also kind of weird, but that's, whatever. That's another thing I would like to work on. I don't know how. I guess just seeing art like as this one objective piece and not mentally separating it into these little compartments. Because I do that with literally every piece I make. And it kind of just makes everything look shit, if I'm honest. It's very frustrating, and I don't know how to get out of it. I don't know, I'm just not very good at drawing. I don't know. I need to practice more, but, every time I practice, I just, like, throw down 3 lines and get distracted by literally everything. Look, I draw physically. I have, like, a little, nice sketchbook, acid-free paper. It's very fancy. It cost me, like, $5. But I take that to our living room at night, and I sit there for, like, an hour or two, drink, like, a tea, And I've started just like not even listening to music or watching a show in the background or something, just like make myself focus. And even then, I'll just like stare off into the corner of the ceiling and then just not pay attention. It's very frustrating. Anyway, I think I've blabbed enough. This was very interesting. I should read Dragon Ball at some point. It's very interesting seeming. It also seems like it's a lot better than the actual anime adaptation, right? For as long as Toriyama himself was writing and illustrating it. I don't know when Toyotaro took over. Toyotaro? Whatever. My pronunciation is so good. I don't know. I'm not very well versed in this kind of thing, but yeah, definitely fun. I definitely had a lot of fun looking at this. I mean, it's a great panel. It's great artist. Very interesting. And one thing, I don't think I got the emotion with the same gravitas that he did, but I think I got the idea across at least. I mean, again, I was literally just like copying from this as it was sitting next to me, but I deserve some credit, right? But yeah, no, I had fun with this. I'm glad I took the time. Tracing it was fun. I should do this with more manga artists. Araki is definitely on the table. I would love to do like a whole proper art study on Miyazaki's art, specifically from his one and only manga, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, which is my favorite manga ever. If you haven't read it, you should read it right now. The art in that is amazing, and I have a whole art book, actually, of the manga and the movie. The movie is also amazing. Go watch it. I should do that at some point, but I think I want to save that for when I can actually do things. Well, I guess save it, right? I can always come back and do these things later. Actually, one thing I would like to do is come to this, redo this at some point. I mean, at some point in the future when I can actually, draw. And then I can put my own spin on it and, see what I can manage. The more I look at it, the more the nose pisses me off. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. It should be like, there's like an angle to it, and then it's just way too sharp here. Yeah, no, alright. So, one final thing. I'm not sure when I'm going to insert this in the video, but this is just something that I remembered after I finished the rest of the things. The comparison to the anime version. So I think a big thing for the Goku one, first of all, he's not doing it properly. He's looking straight down at Frieza, when in the manga it's clearly over his shoulder. You can kind of see that in the full page. You can see how he like turns around, right? So two things that immediately jumped out at me when I saw that was that the eyebrows were just too angled in. It's too much anger, right? Another big thing is just the tear is completely missing, which is very unfortunate. That was like a big thing. And he's just, the head angle also is just way too high set, so he looks like he's really looking down at Frieza instead of looking back at Frieza, right? It's just completely different vibe. Additionally, same thing goes for the Vegeta thing. I know this wasn't the main focus of the video, but it's kind of relevant, right? So you have these tears, you have all the blood, and you have like this, again, very similar situation to Goku, where like the left eyebrow is very angled inwards, kind of angry, but then the right eyebrow is kind of like, still similar, but softened. There's a softness to it, and then there's like this gentle smile, and then you look at the anime version, it's just, again, it's the right eyebrow. It's just much more angled in. It's much more, I don't want to say aggressive, but it's just, yeah, it's just completely different vibes. I mean, not that different, but it just doesn't hit right. And again, yeah, the tear, it's there, at least in the anime, but it's much smaller. It's much more less noticeable. And also because it's just color, it's not as much of that contrast I was talking about, right? So not as much attention is drawn to it either, because it's also just so small, and it's like red, so it's like closer to the skin color around it. It's just not done as cleanly, which is a shame, but at least we have the manga to appreciate. Anyway, thank you for listening this far. I have no idea if I will do one of these again. I'm not holding my hopes out that anyone will particularly see this or not, but thank you if you did make it this far. Yeah, this was fun.